The court is now back in session, and we now hand the floor once again to the prosecution. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me pick up with your last statement, Mr. Witness. I think everybody here is happy that you spared Sai Sen's life. Can you tell us how you have the authority to spare Sai Sen's life?
It is difficult to talk about the authority because he was a young boy and I pitied him. So I asked the people to allow him to stay.
And I'm going to take you back to the testimony that I read before the break about the interrogations conducted by P and An, because I want to make sure you understand that that was not Sai Sen's testimony, that was your testimony. This is the testimony you gave to OCIJ. And to help you, Mr. President, at this time, I would like to present to the witness and his counsel copies of the 6 interviews he has given to the co-investigating judges. With your leave, may those be submitted to the witness.
President, can you please specify the document numbers?
My apologies, Mr. President. Yes, they are documents E3/5522, E3/5524, E3/72, E319.1.20, E319/8.2.1, and E319/8.2.2. With your leave, may these be submitted to the witness.
Yes, you may do so.
The interview I was reading from was your OCIJ interview, E3/5524. And if you could take a look at answers 29 through 35. Is it correct, as you stated in this OCIJ interview, that you were present and watched when P and An conducted interrogations?
Could you please repeat your question?
As you testified to the co-investigating judges, were you present when P and On conducted interrogations?
Yes, that was the information I provided to the interrogator on who conducted the interrogation. And I received that information indirectly, as I was questioned by the investigator.
Your interview, and I would ask you to look at it again, states, question, do you remember if you ever participated in the interrogation of anyone? Answer, I did participate. As for my participation, that was only to listen. Is this a correct statement? Were you there listening when On and P conducted an interrogation?
It was the time that I came from afar, and then I was asked by them to visit them, and I saw what happened briefly, as I was not there, so I did not know the details of their interrogation, and that was the response I provided to the OCIJ investigator.
The person you identified named P, what was his role at Krang Tachan? And is this someone who did he have a position on the Tram Kak District Committee?
Yes, that is correct.
Let me go back. It's correct that P was a member of the Tram Kak District Committee?
Yes, he was a part of the Tram Kak District Committee.
And was P one of the cadres who conducted interrogations at Krang Tachan?
Yes, that is correct.
I'm going to come back later to ask you some more questions about interrogations in Krang Tachan. I want to turn back now to some more general questions about the period that you were the chief of Kus Commune. In your answer number 45 of OCIJ Statement E372, you described attending district meetings twice a month while you were the commune chief of Kus Commune. Can you tell us where were those meetings held and who attended those meetings?
The meetings were held twice a month at the district office. All the commune's representatives had to attend the meeting in order to exchange experience, and it happened on a monthly basis. First, the content of the meetings was on the policies, on the military situation, and on the economic situation.
And where was the district office located?
At that time, it was in a hideout in a village called Krabai Prey.
ក្នុងឃុំសម្រាប់
And Krabai Prey village was in Samrao commune.
And did the location of the district office change later on?
The location remained there. However, it was not really a major site.
You referred to it as a hideout. Can you describe for us a little bit what this location was like?
For example, a house belongs to villagers. Then the district would ask the permission from the owner to use the house for the district business. And then the owners would leave the house, and then we would hold a meeting there.
And in that same interview, E372, at answers 17 through 19, you described hearing the names of Nunchea and Kusampan via cadres who conducted trainings in my area. And you provided the following testimony, and I quote, "Question, who were the cadres who came to teach you? Answer, cadres from the district. The cadres who used to be trained from the upper echelon and then came to further teach people in the lower echelon. Question, what were the names of those cadre teachers? Answer, they were Nev and Kit." Can you give us a description, please, of how these leaders from Tramcock District provided training to you and the other commune chiefs?
They provided training to us when they received documents from the upper echelon, and they would use those documents to disseminate information to us at the commune level, and then we would further disseminate such information.
And what type of documents are you referring to?
In between 1972 and 73, when there was heavy aerial bombardment, the content was for us to dig trenches along the roads or along the footpath, and in case of emergency, then we would hide ourselves in those trenches in order to save our lives. On the aspects of agriculture, they talked about using the coal seeds for rice farming. And besides rice farming, there were also other main crops, including corn and beans. And we needed to plant those crops actively in order to sustain the living.
Thank you. What I was interested in is the type of documents that were received and used for this training? Were these letters? Were they telegrams? Were they a publication, a magazine? Were you aware of what type of documents were received by the district leaders that were used for this training?
In my role of a lower cadre, I did not know the details about the documents they obtained or about any confidential documents. As for the public or open documents, I already informed you of those documents.
Do you remember a party publication called Revolutionary Flag or Red Flag? And can you tell us whether that was one of the documents that was used?
On the issue of the flag magazines, during a conference or mass meeting, they will display those magazines with the flags on the wall and on the establishment, for instance, of the Communist Party and on the social status of the people. However, the meetings that we attended was a kind of a smaller meeting, so there was no such display.
I want to read to you a statement you made in interview E319.1.20 at answers 19 through 20. In that interview of yours, you gave the following testimony, quote, question, who was the enemy? Answer, the enemy referred to the CIA, the Americans, the White Khmer, and Yun. Question, were there any other groups which were considered as enemies? Answer, according to their principles, there were many enemies, but they only designated two big enemies. Anyone who did not follow their line would be accused of being an enemy. End of quote. My question to you is, how were you instructed by the party on these principles of who was considered an enemy?
That was the statement that I said or that I made previously.
And my question is, do you remember who gave these principles to you? How were you told about who was considered an enemy? Who told you, and when were you told this?
Within the time that I worked at the commune level, a little bit more than 1 year, the meeting chaired by the district committee only focus on what I have described earlier, and they spoke also about the flag magazines, about the enemy, etc., in order for us to be more vigilant. so that we would not be interrupted by the enemy. And also it's to strengthen our stance and not to become an enemy.
One of the groups that you referred to indicated that they had described as an enemy were the White Khmer, Khmer Sa. Can you explain to us what White Khmer, who or what White Khmer were?
Based on what I studied, Khmer Rouge were themselves. As for the White Khmer, they refer to the Yun.
Let me turn to another subject that I'd like to ask you a few questions on, and that is about Tamak. I'm going to read first a statement you made in interview E3 5524 at answers 39 and 41. You were describing here an incident in which Tamak had helped you and intervened after you had been reprimanded by someone. Your statement, quote, question, how could Tamak have intervened to release you when you had the problem because you had released 40 prisoners? Answer, after they scolded me, I was afraid and I reported directly to Tamak. Continuing below. Question, how did you know Tamak so clearly? And how were you able to personally meet with him? Answer, I had known him ever since he came in from the forest. End of quote. What did you mean when you said you had known Tamak since he came in from the forest? And when and where was it that you first met Tamak?
I think it's going to be a long response, and I apologize for that. So it is clear for everyone. As on the issue of 40 prisoners, in fact, there were 2 occasions involved 40 prisoners, and we also clarified on my position at the time. When I was organizing the people who were being transferred from one district to another, I arranged the accommodation for those people, and I worked together with the monks. And that was not at the Krantachan office or at the Kus commune. Those people were from District 109, 108, 106, all within Tramcot itself. They were displaced due to the fighting. Even the livestock also had to be relocated. And then I would put those people in various houses for them to stay in the villages and commune. And those people, some of them had been arrested by the district. And as myself had the role of organizing the accommodation for them, and I questioned why those people had been sent to be detained, and I was told that it's because of minor conflicts, that is, conflicts over a coconut tree or 2 coconut trees. And then they were sent, they were accused of disobeying their instructions. And that was the time that I released those 40 people. And that's what I was accused of. And that one event that I released 40 prisoners. And another event was when I was in Kampong Speu in 1974. There was a new village and there was no proper housings there. Then we cleared the land near the base of the Damrai Romil mountain. And then I allotted those lands to 40 families. Those 40 families were actually released, or had actually been released from Krang Tachan prison, and I was assigned to find or to arrange the housing or accommodation for those 40 people. Then I asked them to clear the land, to build houses for them, and form a new village called Prei Kduj village. It was in Bosai, the commune, Kampong Speu province. So that was the second occasion that I released 40 other prisoners. But what you stated involved the first batch of the prisoners that I released. And I was reprimanded and scolded why I released them without asking for their permission or authorization. Because to me, they were just displaced people and they had no food to eat. So I fed them and I considered them as evacuees. And because I had a role in coordinating the housings for the evacuees together with the monk, and that's what I did. And Tamok helped me because I made a direct contact with him since I knew him. I told him that I was victimized and that I was about to be killed, and I sought his help. And the person who was about to kill me was Saum, but with the Tamok intervention, then my life was spared. And I'd like to talk a little bit more on Soi San. Soi San was a boy within the army. And by that time, I was no longer in Kuh commune. But when I returned, I saw him, I pitied him. So I asked them to let him stay and live. And because they knew me, so they gave him, or they allowed him to live. And that's what happened.
Let me go back to the prisoners who you released, who you were reprimanded for. Was the person, who was it that scolded you for releasing those prisoners without his approval?
It was the Sector 13 committee or secretary.
And is that the person you mentioned a few minutes ago named Som?
Yes, that's his name, Saum.
And can you explain to us how it was that you were in position to be able to release these prisoners without Som's permission? How are you able to release these prisoners?
I have just stated, I was part of the committee for the organizing the accommodation for the war displaced people, and because I had a pity on them, and that's what I did.
Your testimony is that as a member of this committee for the displacement of people, you have the authority to release prisoners?
The prisoners were transferred through under our management, and I in fact was not aware of their presence. But after I organized the accommodations for them, then I knew what happened. So I allowed them to stay. I know it could be a mistake on my part, but I did what I thought was right. In fact, I did not have any real authority to release prisoners. I was just a member of that committee.
And did some threaten you? You told us that you went to Tamok because Sam was going to kill you. Why did you believe that Sam was going to kill you?
He threatened me, and that's why I was fearful. Everybody was fearful of his or her own death, with no exception, and for that reason I went to find help from the senior person.
So let's go back for a moment to just talk about Tamok, putting aside this incident about the release of prisoners. What I'd like to know is, when was it that you first met Tamok?
I met him for first time in late 1971.
And in the statement that I read to you a few minutes ago, you said that you have known him ever since he came in from the forest. What did you mean when you said that Tamok came in from the forest?
That was correct. Although he joined the resistance a long time ago, he did not emerge from the forest. And I met him when he emerged from the forest near the base of the Mray Romil mountain.
And can you tell us a little bit, what was the occasion on which you met Tamok at the base of this mountain?
At that time, villagers and those who were responsible for the villages and the commune were called to attend a big meeting which was held at night.
And what happened at this meeting? What was the purpose of this meeting?
They spoke about the a revolutionary movement against the enemy. That's what they announced at the time. And they stir the spirit of the people to rise up in all fronts and engage in whatever they could do to join that movement.
You stated this was late 1971 when you met Tamak. Can you tell us how often did you see Tamak between that time in late 1971, between 1971 and 1973? How often did you see Tamak?
From the distance from my house to Tamak's house was about 15 kilometers. And his location was also at the district office. For that reason, when meetings were held, it was the meetings organized by either the district or the sector. They were held at the same location. And that's how I met him. So I usually met him during those major meetings. And I never met him on any other occasions. And the meetings were usually at that time held at night because of the fear of the aerial bombardment.
In interview E372, answer 77, you testified that Tamak was also known as Ta 15, and you stated, and I quote, "When he signed, he wrote his name as Ta 15, end of quote. How did you know that Tamak signed documents as Ta 15?
I knew it because of his letters. For example, his letters asking for people or assigning people to perform specific tasks. In those letters, he would assign it with the word Ta 15, and for that reason, he was known as Ta 15. And I did not dare ask why he was known as Ta 15.
Did you receive these letters directly from Tamak, or did they come to you through the district office?
I received those letters through the district office. I did not receive them directly.
Now, you've talked about already in detail how Tamak was able to protect you after the release of the first group of prisoners. And taking you to E319/8.2.2, answer 118, you gave the following testimony. Question: did Tamak protect you? Yes, he did protect me. Once I was about to be taken away and killed, but Tamak helped. And then continuing at answer 122, question: Whom did Tamok talk to in order to help you? Answer, he talked with the sector, meaning Sam and Ben. My question to you is, did Tamok, as the head of the Southwest Zone, have authority to prevent people from being arrested and killed as he did with you?
The mock did help me, and he in fact told the Truman at the sector about that. At that time, his Cha Kong did not yet die. So the district blamed me for what I did, and then the sector also blamed me for what I did. And then I went to the mock for help, and my life was spared.
And in interview E319.1.20 at answers 3 through answer 4, you gave the following testimony. Quote, Tamok was the chairman of the zone. He was also a party center member. Continuing later, quote, because he was party center member, he could also govern other zones. End of quote. Can you explain what you meant when you said that Tamok could govern other zones because he was a party center member?
I learned through the information disseminated by the district and the sector that he was in charge of the Southwest Zone comprising of 3 provinces, namely Takeo, Kampot, and Kampong Speu. He was also a member of the party's center. For example, when he went to work at a different zone, for example, in the East Zone, in his letter of instruction to the East Zone, he used his code name 15, and then people there did not recognize his authority and they did not carry out his instruction. That's this kind of information I learned through the district and the sector.
You said that because he was party center member, he could also govern other zones. Were you aware of other zones that Tamok governed outside the Southwest Zone?
Yes, that is correct.
Can you tell us what other zones Tamok was able to govern because he was a party center member?
He also governs the North Zone, and I knew that because later when I was transferred to rubber plantation, whatever they did over there was to follow the instructions from the mob.
And you used the words party center member. what did you understand it to mean to be a party center member?
Party center member, as we all know it, the center was the core. All information gathered from districts or provinces would be collected for the center. That's how I understand it.
And one more piece of information you provided related to Tamok. This is in interview E319/8.2.2 at answers 129 through 131. You provided the following testimony, quote, question, during the Khmer Rouge regime, did you ever hear or know of sexual violence committed by Khmer Rouge cadres? Answer, yes, I heard of that. Sometimes the military leaders had affairs with women within the military ranks. Question, when such a case occurred, what would happen to the offender? Answer, Tamok killed his son-in-law because of doing just that many times. Question, what was his name? Answer, Rin. Now, first, in regards to the son-in-law of Tamok, who you identified in this testimony, can you tell us which daughter of Tamok he was married to and what his position was during the Democratic Kampuchea regime?
The statement that I provided as an information that Mok killed his son-in-law Ren was correct. Ren was a former division commander, and in fact he stationed in Phnom Penh, and later on after Phnom Penh failed, he was still engaged in this moral misconduct. Although he had married to the daughter of Tamok.
Did you know which daughter of Tamok he was married to?
The daughter is still living today, and she remarried. Tamok only had daughters, not son, no son.
And can you tell us, how did you know that Tamok had killed his son-in-law for having affairs with other women?
I knew it because later on when we fled up to the Dong Rei mountain, we were living in a crowded area. So we learned personal information during that situation. And of course, it's just a word by mouth from one person to another.
Mr. President, I'm about to change to a different subject. Do you want me to continue, or is this should we break at this point?
Thank you, the Deputy International Court Prosecutor. The proceedings today come to an adjournment. We will adjourn now and resume tomorrow, that is Wednesday, 25th of February 2015, commencing from 9 o'clock in the morning. Tomorrow we will continue to hear the testimony of this witness, Pan Chen. And Mr. Pan Chen, we thank you for your time. However, the hearing of your testimony is not yet concluded, and you are invited to return again tomorrow. And now you may return to your place of residence. Court officer, in collaboration with Visu, please make a necessary arrangement for him to return to his residence and bring him back into the courtroom tomorrow morning before 9 o'clock. And security personnel, you are instructed to take the two accused, Nunji and Kyu Sampon, back to the detention center of the ECCC and have them returned tomorrow morning to attend the proceedings before 9 o'clock in the morning. The court is now adjourned.